All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Bucci Radio. I have a special guest joining us today. His name is Chase Chewning.
That's me.
Fun name to say.
I used to give my brother so much crap for it. It was kind of a family legacy. I got kicked out of the Army for injuries. You can embrace a lot of suck. Wellness is balance. Where the mind goes, the body will follow. I want you to continue down this path. Go ever forward. And that's exactly what I did.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Bucci Radio. I have a special guest joining us today. His name is Chase Chewning.
That's me.
Fun name to say. Alliteration.
Say that 5 times fast.
Chase Chewning, Chase Chewning, Chase
Fun
Chewning,
fact.
Chase Chewning, Chase Chewning.
Chase is not my first name.
Okay, so this is getting interesting already.
So I'm James Chase Chewning.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
what sparked the change?
So James is
It's like a stage name.
Exactly, yeah. So if you ever see James Chewning pop up on your program billet, it's me. No,
Okay.
James was a family name. Every firstborn male in my family has been a James. So I was born at the time. I have an Uncle Jim. My grandfather was James. And then I had a great-grandfather at the time was another James. So we lived very close to each other. And for a while, I actually lived with my grandparents. And so James was just too confusing. So they called me by my middle name.
Because everybody was James.
Pretty much, yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So
you just yell
Chase
James. You got 5 people coming downstairs, so I went with Chase, yeah.
Chase Chewning sounds it's a nice name. So I remember when I first found your YouTube channel, it wasn't really till recently. Mm-hmm. Even after watching your brother Max for a little while, I hadn't found you until pretty recently. The minute I started watching your videos, I was like, this guy's definitely made to be in front of the camera. So I'm excited for you to continue with YouTube. Duh shucks. So why don't you go ahead and tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, what you do, what like your first career path was, and kind of just start from the beginning.
I mean, if you really want to go back to the beginning, so I've basically been involved with movement my whole life. So I grew up playing sports, not really competitively. I played baseball my whole life. I went into the military for a while, and then after that I got into exercise science program for undergraduate for school. And so I really got into kind of the whole health and wellness, and I did personal training, group exercise training, things like that. And then really being around people who were doing that in front of the camera. You know, my brother, Nick Wright, lived down in Richmond, Virginia, where we were for about a year. So being around
Another
those people.
fitness YouTuber.
Exactly. We're just staying in the same circle here, apparently. So I was just around all those people who were doing what I was doing, but just putting themselves out there. And I really thought that that platform was appealing and entertaining and a lot of fun, honestly. I used to give my brother so much crap for it in the beginning because you can't go anywhere without this guy, holding a camera in front of your face. But it was fun.
So you kind of picked on him for it a little bit?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Full disclosure. But he went about it in a different way. He kind of just pursued it just as just YouTube Max or just this career. And then he has, in the past year or so, kind of adopted a lifestyle that just also includes a camera. And so that really appealed to me when I saw him kind of shift his style a little bit over the years. I would pop up on his videos a lot. And honestly, the only reason I started a YouTube channel was because people on his channel were saying, hey, we want, Chase, you should start a channel, And I didn't really think.
That was really encouraging, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't think.
Wait, me?
Wait, you actually like me.
You really like me. So
I put out a disclaimer. I was like, hey, you know what? If I get, I technically had a YouTube channel. I had an account, but I didn't produce any content. Right. And so I was like, you know what? If I get 500 people to subscribe, I'll put out a video. And then literally a week later.
That's kind of a cool way.
Yeah, so I kind of just put myself out there, and people responded to it. And I was like, well, shit, I got to live up to my end of the bargain. Sure. Yeah, so it kind of just came out of that. So I was already doing fitness, whatever. You can't see my air quotes, but I'm doing the air quotes here. I was doing that as my 9 to 5. I was a trainer, group exercise instructor, health coach. And so I kind of just was like, hey, people are interested in what I have to say. I really like the entertainment aspect of it and the feedback. I'm all about feedback, interacting with people. Right. I'll talk to this wall for hours if I think it'll, talk back to me.
It won't give you feedback.
And it's a good looking wall, I'm just going to say. Except this little scuff mark right here. I love interacting with people. I love meeting new people. And, in my line of work, I'm all about, helping people, meeting new people. And so you meet a lot of different people in a lot of different walks of life. I mean, what better way to meet even more people in various walks of life than through the interwebs.
Through the interwebs.
Yeah, the online.
When exactly did you start putting out like your first video? When was that? How long ago?
Let's see, about spring 2015. So,
okay, cool.
like, I'm coming up on like my 2-year YouTube
anniversary.
Something like that, yeah.
That's precious.
Yeah.
So I was looking through your YouTube videos and I was doing my research and I found one of your videos in particular had like much more views than the other ones. It was one of your Q&As and it was about the military.
Oh yeah.
Just because people are very interested in that. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your time in the military? I'm sure we can kind of get into more specifics, but why did you get started in the military, essentially?
Yeah, it's one of the questions I get asked the most, and it's one of the ones that I still continue to make a lot of military videos because
people are clearly interested in that
besides,
topic.
you know, working out and fitness and stuff, there's a whole other demographic of people looking to join the military or in it or were in it. So it's just another easy connection point. So for me, it was kind of a family legacy. My father was in the Army, my uncle was a Marine, my grandfather was in the Army in World War II, and so on and so forth. So just like we like the word James, we like people in the military. So
James in the military.
Exactly. Just
should
Soldier James.
write a book called that.
I'm gonna trademark that right now. It was never really pushed on me, like, hey, you know, this is a family thing, you will do it. But I saw how much my dad loved it, and I saw kind of the path that you could have with that. And at the time, I guess I really started considering it around age 16, 17. You know, in that phase was like my junior, senior year of high school, and I was like, I think I know what I want to do when I grow up. I think I want to go to school. And so rather than just kind of like floating through a few years of that time of my life, I wanted to apply myself in something that, even if it wasn't what I wanted to do long term, it was a great springboard to put me in a better place afterwards. So I followed in my family's footsteps. Originally was looking at the Air Force, but I wound up going with the Army. I chose the MOS, the job, as a cryptologic linguist.
Cryptologic linguist.
I could tell you more, but I have to kill you. I'm just kidding. So I went into the military intelligence.
I could probably break down the word cryptologic linguist.
It's a much bigger term than actually what goes on sometimes. But I honestly don't know why I chose that job looking back, because I struggled with Spanish in high school, and I chose the job as a linguist. And so you have to do that
to learn a language
as your 9 to 5. Yeah, absolutely. And it was,
what was the language that you learned?
Russian.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. You have to take a test to get into the military, and you have to score high enough on that test to even be available to take this other test, which determines which language they will give you. So
you didn't get to choose the language?
No.
Wow.
Unless you're already fluent in a language and test out in it, then you just basically leave it open to chance. So how you score and where you score, in as far as like how you hear certain noises, how you decipher certain codes, it was about a 3-hour test of just made up languages, made up codes, and then based upon how you perform, they assign you a language. So for whatever reason, I scored high enough in a category to be taught Russian. So from there, I went out to Monterey, California. I was learning Russian every day for about a year. It's all taught by native instructors. So I had this, I always go to the analogy of, well, it's not an analogy, this angry Russian grandma yelling at me from day one of just in Russian. You never know what the hell they're saying. And so you just pick up on it. It's total immersion training. So you get geography, history, economy, different aspects of culture, the whole aspect in one. And so from there, I went on and was a Russian linguist, Russian intelligence analyst, translator, and so on and so forth. So that kind of forced me down one path in the intelligence community, and I was getting a little bit bored. So actually I volunteered for deployment to be attached to a special operations group to go to Afghanistan. And anytime you go to, before a deployment, you have to go through pre-deployment training. Basically, you play war games for a period of time, get all your gear
really
and stuff
hard,
ready.
Right?
Your quote-unquote real-life training to prepare you for what you're going to be doing.
Right.
So I signed up for a 6-month deployment. I got injured during that pre-deployment training. I tore a hamstring, injured my L4, L5 vertebrae. Over time, after that, kind of healing and overcompensation and getting put back into duty too soon. This was
your surgery story, correct?
I wound up having both my hips completely reconstructed. So
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's quite a surgery for someone young.
Yeah, I was 21 for the first one, and then 22 for the second one.
You had 2 surgeries?
Yeah, so they do one hip
each?
at a time. I was about bedridden for a couple months, and then you go through rehab. I had to learn how to walk again about twice. So if they do one side,
that's crazy.
And then basically once you get to a point to where you can walk again, they put you back on the table and do the other side. At the end of that,
it was like 2 recovery periods of, that's insane.
So I signed up for 6 years active duty. About 4.5 years in is when I was injured. So my last about year and a half in, I was a patient basically. So my job was to get surgery, rehab, and then get surgery, rehab. And then because of that, I was non-deployable. And so once you become non-deployable, essentially the military has no use for you. So I was actually medically discharged. I got kicked out of the Army for my injuries. That really made my focus all about the human body, because I was so used to just being active and moving and working out and just enjoying, not being sedentary my whole life, that I had to really learn the human body in a different way now. So that's why I chose exercise science as my undergrad study, and then just through internships and jobs just really found a passion for it, and that's what I do today.
So that's like a crazy story, and you kind of talk about your injury like a little bit nonchalantly. I get like the vibe you're just like kind of over it, like you've taken it in. But like looking back, that's like a huge thing for someone who's really into not only like their career path, so you're really involved in the military, your family has done it, and it's something that you have decided like, yes, this is what I'm going to do.
I planned on staying in for the full 20 years. You go into the military, you do your 20, you get out, you get retirement, and then go on to whatever. So I was like, I actually enlisted at age 17. So I was like, shit, this is easy. I can do 20 years, get out when I'm 37, get my first retirement, go on to my next career, and be set. So that actually changed and was only 6 years instead of 20. So my life realigned pretty quickly.
So how like difficult was being bedridden? So for someone who's really active, someone who's always been active their whole entire life, like I've had an injury before, and it was just a broken wrist, and it was like pretty difficult to even deal with. Yeah, of course, but like being completely bedridden is a completely different story. So tell us a little bit about like how you felt during that period.
Well, the only up I think was being waited on hand and foot.
Hey.
I guess, but it's not even really me at all. So I hate being dependent on others. Especially, in the military for so long, you're just used to doing your own thing and, literally just soldiering on. So it was very, very different. It was a culture shock. I had to just completely change my whole mentality and just really accept that I can't do what I want to do. My sense of norm is totally different. It was a big mental thing, mostly. I kind of just really just accepted, okay, I just have to bide my time through this. It was really kind of disheartening because once I had the first surgery, I'm up out of bed, I'm on my crutches, and I go from my crutches to my cane, and I go from my cane to just like a real boy. I'm walking again.
I can walk again.
I'm kicking my braces off just like Forrest Gump style, and then they're like, okay, you can do full load bearing, now we're going to go back into the other side.
Crazy.
So you go through this whole growing process of healing physically and, going through this whole mental aspect of, I'm a patient, I'm getting better, I'm better now, but then you start it all over again. And then at the end of it, it's not just, hey, I'm going to be injured and, I'm going through this process and I'll get better to some point, but I also knew that I was going to get kicked out of the Army. So a lot was going on at the same time.
You kind of just understood what was going to happen, and you just took it for what it was. You didn't really do a whole lot of like playing the victim of yourself. How do you feel like you came about to have those personality traits? Like, have you kind of grown up like that, or what?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, I definitely give a lot of credit to the military because you're given. I don't know, anyone who's been in the military would kind of just know, like, we call it embracing the suck. And so
I like that.
There's nothing you can really do about it. To a certain extent, you just have to really just accept where you are, know what you can change, and just accept what you can't. Right. And then for me, it was a little bit different just because I was going through that same mentality process, but I knew the end result. So I attribute a lot of it to my military training, but also just growing up. I'd say I was in a military household, but it was never really like the movies. I got some drill sergeant dad yelling at you. I came from a very loving, nurturing family environment. Our dad was just a very driven man, a big family man. Everything he did was out of selfless service. Mm-hmm. And so I really kind of saw that you can embrace a lot of suck.
Yeah.
And if you tag on the right reason to that, it doesn't make it as unbearable, I think. So looking back, I mean, as a kid, you don't really recognize all the sacrifices and stuff that your parents go through. But now I'm 31, and I can look back at times in my life, kind of have this different perspective now of just seeing, like, wow, my dad was going through a lot of crap. My mom was going through a lot of crap. Even I'm a child of divorce. I was raised basically by my stepmom and my dad, my grandmother to an extent, a lot of sidebars there. So definitely kind of my family, a little bit of the military, and kind of just, I've always just kind of had the same mentality of, I don't let a lot of control in because I know that I can't control a lot. So I'm very kind of just go with the flow and, just, hey, just tell me what I can do to make this better. And then I'll just try to do my best.
Yeah. That's a really good lesson for a lot of people to take away because there's not a lot of people that really understand how to go about doing that when something negative happens in their life and they don't understand how to just come out of it and say, it's going to be okay, I can't do anything about it, and just take it for what it is. It's a really good life lesson. Yeah,
and something that I have learned now and try to continuously apply is that, everything in life that happens to you is neutral. It's really our reaction, our response that gives it that positive or negative connotation. And so, I mean, when you're 17, 20 years old, whatever, you don't really necessarily have that awareness. So I guess at that time I have to attribute, me being in the military, I didn't really have the luxury of just throwing up my arms and like, screw it, I'm just going to do whatever else I want, because I didn't have that luxury. Right. I had a job to do. And if I didn't, Uncle Sam doesn't really like it when you don't do your job,
Of course.
So I was held accountable. I had a lot of people that depended on me. I was in leadership positions, so I didn't really have the opportunity to kind of just, wallow, basically.
Yeah, of course. So the next thing that I wanted to ask you a little bit about was that you're obviously like very into your family, and you learned a lot from your dad. You were talking about. Are you okay to talk about your dad a little?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But I'm good. It's been a while.
It's been a while. So I guess I just wanted to ask, because your podcast that you're starting, so I was just interviewed for your podcast, and that's probably going to be out by the time this one's
Shameless
out.
plug, Everforward Radio.
Shameless plug, Everforward. It's called Everforward Radio, and Everforward is something that you and your family and like your siblings have all taken with them and ran with it, in different paths. So Max has the clothing line Everforward, and you have the Everforward podcast, and you guys have it tattooed on you and everything. It's a really, really strong thing in all of your family's lives. So can you just tell us a little bit about that and where it came from?
Yeah, so not to just stay wound up with the military, but like I said, my dad was in the Army, and one of his units, he was in National Guard for a while, and then so basically he was part-time Army for a few years, and then went full-time Army. He was National Guard, and then went active duty. Okay. So his National Guard unit back in our hometown of Roanoke, Virginia, way out in the boondocks, Southwest Virginia.
Boondocks.
Yeah.
I like that word.
Sticks. Their unit, so every unit you're in has kind of like a creed or a saying, and theirs was Everforward. It's actually, he was an infantry guy. So he was one of the, when you think of an Army guy, he was one of the typical, ground soldiers. And so their unit was one of the oldest infantry units in American history. And I don't know the exact origin of it, but I just know that Everforward was their unit's saying, their creed, whatever.
Gotcha.
And then so he picked it up from there. And then as long as I can remember, it was something that he always said, something that he always instilled in us, and kind of we just all ran with it. So we knew
all on your Twitter every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I try to just put it out there, kind of pay it forward, and just continue on his legacy in that aspect. Yeah, so Everforward was something that we were aware of, but never really sunk in until we actually lost him. So about a week after I left for boot camp in 2003.
And you were 20?
I was 17.
Oh, when you were 17. Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
So while I was in basic training, he was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. So it's a terminal disease. It's an autoimmune disorder. It's extremely cruel and terrible. I don't know how familiar you are with it. Basically, it just affects the body, and your body turns against itself, and you basically wither away. But you're all there mentally. It doesn't affect the brain at all. So you literally just become a prisoner in your own body. So that was about summer 2003, and then he unfortunately had a very, very escalated case. And from diagnosis to when he passed was about, I think, 16, 18 months. And so
very short.
Yeah, very short. A lot of people can go years and years and years, on a lot of heavy medication. And my dad just kind of knowing the end result, kind of going back to my time, of getting injured and knowing my end result, he just really, honestly, he accepted it with just open arms. And so it was a very, very humbling, angry, confused, emotional time of my life, because I was literally on the complete opposite side of the country at the time. I was stationed in California. Right. They're back in Virginia. I would go back every time I could, every couple months, and he would just be drastically worse. And so the last couple months, he was completely bedridden.
It's kind of really difficult.
It was very difficult, especially because a big reason why I joined the military was to, continue on a family legacy. And it was never I was never doing it for him or anyone else, but I just knew what it meant to him. Right. And seeing that pride in your parents just is so fulfilling.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
Every time I went back, he was just worse and worse and worse. And the last couple months he was alive, he was completely bedridden. In that transitional period, I really, really learned what Everforward meant. And actually, when he first got sick, like I said, I was in California. He flew out while he was still able. I actually tried to get out of the Army. Semi of a loophole, if you have like an extreme hardship back home, they'll let you out of your contract. And so I actually dropped my paperwork. I was in the process of leaving the military.
And that would have cut you from the military completely.
And I was only in for like a few months,
Right.
But my dad, once he found out about it, he flew out. He's like, hell no. This is not your problem. It's going to be difficult, but you're on this path, and I want you to continue down this path. Go Everforward. And that's exactly what I did. So he talked me out.
That's powerful.
It was. He spent 4 days with me in California. I took 4 days leave, and we did a little bit of some sightseeing stuff, but basically we got a hotel room, and he just memoirs, just like talking, and just because he was losing his voice and speech capability at that time. And so I think he was just taking advantage of the time to pass on what he wanted while he could. And then he just totally got me out of leaving the military. And so in that 4 days,
he had a mission and he stuck to it.
Yeah, he forever a soldier. He gave me my new orders, and I drove on. So in that time, I learned what Everforward was, and ever since then, I've been trying to just pay it forward. I think it is such a applicable phrase, meaning that it can apply to a lot of different people and different walks of life. And so for me, all my life, I've been told, hey, you should be in radio. And so here I am just taking advantage of, really just, I guess, being aware and listening to people when they tell you something, you're good at something, you might be good at it. So I thought that it was a great...
Quite the nice radio voice.
Thank you. So actually, my dad had a very similar voice. We would get stopped all the time. Hey, did I hear you on the radio? Not yet, exactly, yeah. So I'm doing this now, Everforward Radio, and then, I help my brother out in any way that I can, just promote what it means. And I think all of us, my sister, my mom, my stepmom, my brother, we all just have a different version of it to ourselves. It means something different to all of us, but it is something that we can all get behind and promote, as a unified front.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. I the first time I heard the story of the message, I think I watched Max's video that he made of it, and I also watched yours that you spoke about it, and it was just really strong and powerful, and it's something that a lot of people can connect with, and I think it's just really amazing that you've all taken it and ran with it, and it's like a legacy for your dad, and you think about it every single day, and you remember him every single day, and I think that's amazing. Why don't we switch gears from the Army and your dad and Everforward? Now you're doing fitness YouTube, really, right?
Yeah, yes and no.
In a way. That's like one aspect of your life.
Yeah, it is one aspect of my life.
Fitness, the military, and fashion kind of stuff. A little bit of fashion.
Yeah.
Fancy Chase.
Fancy Chase wears his fancy clothes, yeah. So I kind of just combined everything that I like to do and personal interests. I never really started out as, hey, I'm going to have a fitness channel. I'm going to have I'm going to be a vlogger. I'm going to be, just military advice, whatever. I think that was part of the original appeal, was that a lot of people saw, hey, we want more from you because I'm interested in this aspect. And other persons say, hey, I'm interested in this aspect.
Right.
And like I said earlier, I love just talking and connecting with people. I think life is all about just sharing your story and learning other people's story at the same time.
Right.
And so I was like, hey, I got a lot of different stories. I can talk about my time in the military. I can talk about hardships that I've experienced in my life with my family, loss, grief. I can talk about working out. I can talk about
a lot of things to talk about.
Exactly. As you can tell, I'm sure this podcast will go on forever.
We can talk forever.
So I kind of just combined. I have a big interest in men's style, men's fashion, entertainment, lifestyle, working out, and it's not just personal interests. I mean, my 9 to 5 is fitness, working out, wellness. I'm a certified health coach. All my education is in undergraduate's exercise science. I just recently finished my master's program in health promotion. So I got my edumacation, I got my certifications, and all that jazz.
You're all occasionated.
I'm all occasionated. That's
is that a word?
Is that it?
I didn't make that up on the fly.
It's definitely not a movie reference because I know you don't know any of those.
It's not a movie reference. I mean, I know some Will Ferrell. That's pretty basic stuff.
Every Will Ferrell movie and Dumb and Dumber. It's about 90% of my vernacular.
Yeah, right, I've come to learn that. Chase and I have hung out since he's been in California. We've seen each other 2 days so far, and it's a lot of movie quotes. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta catch up.
She's been a good sport. She's at least laughing at them and not making me feel like
that I know.
A dummy. Yeah. So I guess going back to my YouTube, it kind of, like I said, springboarded because of the interest that a lot of people had from my brother's videos, and I would pop up every once in a while on Nick Wright's videos when he was in Richmond, and just being around a lot of those people, I was popping up in different areas, getting feedback that, hey, we would like to see more. I was like, okay, so I'll give you more. And so I've been doing it for about 2 years now. I do Q&As, relationship stuff, style advice.
And you're married, right?
I am, yeah. I got married in September.
Congratulations.
So thank you. Yeah, my Miss May, another nurse, both BSNs there. And so we actually met at school. So she was in VCU in Richmond, Virginia for the nursing program.
Gotcha.
And I was finishing up my last semester of undergrad, and I met her actually through my brother. He invited me over. He was at like a sorority party or something. I don't know, some cookout or something. Friends of friends connected the dots there and wound up hanging out. Max invited everyone back to his apartment at the time, kind of like just to continue the social gathering. I happened to be down the street.
To get crazy.
Exactly, some shenanigans.
Shenanigans in college.
And I just happened to be, I think I was, I don't know, like at a bar or restaurant, something down the street. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll walk over. And
casual.
Yeah, so this is a funny story. I love to talk about this because it makes me look really good. So I met my wife May that day because of my brother, and I walked up, and immediately when I walked into his house, her at the time, I didn't know who she was. I saw this girl. Just her at the time. I saw this girl run immediately into the bathroom as soon as she saw me walk in the door. And I was like, that's weird. Didn't think anything of it. And so, later on, we wound up, we met that night and have, long story short, we're married now. The story doesn't begin there. It goes way back about 6 months to a year. I like to tell everyone that she was my stalker. She knew of me for about 6 months to a year before I knew who she was. So when I was in school,
is she going to be mad that you're sharing?
Oh no! I tell people all the time. Oh, okay. It's fine. Love you, babe. But so I worked part-time at a coffee house on campus. Our family growing up, after my dad got out of the military. Funny story. Well, not funny, but he was medically injured as well. Got medically discharged. He got out. Became an entrepreneur, kind of always had that entrepreneur spirit, started a coffee house, turned into about 4 or 5 coffee houses and a high-end steakhouse. And so I grew up making coffee basically my whole life, from about age 11 until I left the military. Gotcha. So in between classes and stuff, I was always hanging out at this coffee house, and I wound up working part-time just because I was bored, and, it's better to get free coffee than to pay for coffee.
This is true.
And so she would come in all the time to study and, like, for lack of a better term, like, stalk me. Like, she would always come back and, like...
Cute barista.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. Well, at the time, she thought I looked like some douchebag baseball player, which,
Gotcha.
I'm not offended by now, but at the time, it's kind of offensive. But either way, she was interested. So she never approached me or did anything. And at the time, I was...
It's a scary thing to approach a guy and say, hey, you're cute.
I guess, yeah. I don't like, hey, I want some coffee and your phone number. I don't know. And so she never approached me. We never really had any interaction. Fast forward to that time when I walked into my brother's house and this girl ran into the bathroom. It was May. She was freaking out. She's like, oh my God. At the time, the restaurant was called Rev It Up Coffee House. Uh-huh. She's like, oh my God, it's Rev Boy. It's Rev Boy. And so
you heard her say this?
She told me about it afterwards.
Okay,
she ran into the bathroom and had to give herself a pep talk because she was like freaking out. She's like, oh my God, it's Rev Boy. It's Rev Boy. She's like, get it together, Meg. You got this. You got this. You're finally going to talk to him. And
wow, that's so cute.
Yeah, so we met like shortly after that.
So she came up to you first? Or you were just like, why were you in the bathroom?
Yeah, I don't think I thought anything of it at the time. Like, there were a lot of people there, and so I was kind of just mingling, talking to my brother. And then she was actually, I think, on the laptop trying to change the playlist.
Okay.
And I'm very, very picky with my music. I think I didn't like the song she was picking or something.
Oh.
So I went over.
She probably felt even worse.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm trying to put myself in her shoes. I would have been like, shit.
She's like, I chose the wrong song, damn it. But I was like, she's cute. So I went over, and, like I said, I'll talk to anybody. And I had an immediate connection to the music, so I wanted to change the song. So actually, I'm pretty sure I went over and sat on her lap and just started like playing on iTunes.
She probably died.
She's like, I think she was offended at first because she's like, "What the hell is this guy doing sitting on my lap?" Like, I don't even know. She knew me. I didn't know her. So I just sat down on her lap, started playing with iTunes, and then I started talking to her, and then the rest is history. Yeah, it'll be 4 years in April.
Nice.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
That's awesome. And how did we get to that? I think we were still talking about your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so a part of that, I kind of talk about relationship stuff every once in a while.
Okay,
She's sort of kind of camera shy. Like, she'll come up on some videos every once in a while. Like, it was actually her idea to do the Bean Boozled challenge. If you haven't done that, it's disgusting.
I have not done that.
It is so
I've
bad.
considered doing it. Karen and I have done a couple challenges.
Yeah. Yeah, you did like the what's in the box and stuff.
That was a funny one. You should do that
the Whisper Challenge.
The Whisper Challenge was probably my favorite one.
She likes a lot of the challenge videos, so anything like that that comes up. They're
super entertaining, yeah.
But she watches you, Nikki B. Yeah, she's like, I find another nurse.
Hey.
So
I'm an almost nurse. I'm not a full-time nurse.
Yeah. I
Close enough.
I'm a huge believer in education and experience makes the person and the job.
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
how stupid and annoying certification exams can be. I've had to do so many of them. Once you get to a certain point, like employers, are looking for different things. And so to make yourself stand out, you basically just need to put that alphabet after your name. You need the bachelor's degree. I'm finding out now, honestly, that's why I went back to grad school, is because in this career, you need the master's degree nowadays. You need the certifications. And so
to be a certified health coach, it sets you apart.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Because the word wellness to me means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and I think the value of it has kind of gone by the wayside over the years, because you can just say, this is a wellness place, whatever, and you never really know exactly what you're getting. But with certain certifications, it at least gives you that baseline credentialing to where people know, hey, I can go to this person and get the same experience. I know that there's some sort of governing body behind them, and they didn't just attend not to knock certain personal trainers, but I didn't just go to like a weekend personal training shop and now I know
any monkey can get there.
Exactly. Now I know everything about the human body and
right.
know how to train people and stuff. So
right.
I'm a big believer in, I think experience over anything. I think experience trumps everything.
I agree with you there.
I think a lot of that comes with time, and unfortunately, you need time in a certain job, a certain experience, internship. You need the education. I think education...
Some sort of mentor.
Exactly, yeah. You need someone who has had that experience, had that time, that can kind of guide you and basically, teach from their mistakes. And so I think in my industry specifically, personally, that it's, experience, because I think people connect more with that personal story. That's why, honestly, a lot of times, like certain clients of mine, when they're really, really struggling or come up with just outlandish excuses, I tell them my story. And it's not to just, one up them, but it's like, I had to learn how to walk again twice. You have a sore ankle. Don't really talk to me about not being able to, count your calories or, take the stairs instead of, the elevator, or just be aware, basically.
Right. And it's not just that you're trying to one up them, like you're saying. Yeah. It's really just that personal connection that people understand. Like, this person went through something that might have been more difficult than what I'm going through, so it's like less of an excuse for me. Or sometimes those little stories really change people's mindsets. Connecting
the dots, absolutely.
Yeah.
It really just changes people's perspective. And so I think the more that you can at least be open to having a different perspective will help you in so many different ways, whether you're trying to get a new PR in the gym or lose weight or advance in your career or just, be a better person. I think the more you just open yourself up to different possibilities, learn someone else's story, hey, they may be going about this a similar way to you, but they're probably doing one thing differently, and that one thing that they're doing differently could totally change the way that you go about doing something else.
Yeah. So, you and I have talked about this, just like being open and aware and that you don't know everything. Not like the more that you know, the more you learn that you don't know everything.
Exactly. And that's definitely one of the biggest things I've learned as I continue through my education experience and stuff. I continue to meet people, work with clients who teach me something new that I never even thought to, include in my own train of thought or coaching or training.
So the people that you coach teach you things
on a daily
basis.
Yeah. And honestly, that's why I think why I love what I do so much is because I have really become like a student of life. And I'm in this phase now of becoming a bookworm and like podcasts, and I just love learning
all the knowledge,
all the stuffs, yeah. And so the more I can connect and work with different people, it's not always going to be the same cookie cutter person. Like, hey, I need to lose 5 pounds in 10 weeks. They have this other mental barrier or this other past experience in their life. So the more that I can learn about what got them to where they are at that exact point is really going to change my perspective and allow me to coach them in a different way that they are going to connect with. I can't just give them the same routine, the same nutritional guidance, or the same advice in general if they're coming from a totally different place. And so that's really why I love my health coaching career now over top of when I was doing like personal training, group exercise, because it's different than just telling people, hey, do this workout for this amount of time, this amount of reps. You're really saying, hey, I understand and recognize and respect where you are at this point in time and how you got there, and I'm going to take all that and apply it to what I know to help you get to where you want to be after.
And that's like far, far more effective than giving anybody a cookie cutter anything, because people are looking for something that they can just buy really quickly. That's a cookie cutter plan, something that's going to quick fix. And what they don't understand is that, like, to change their life and to get the actual happiness that they're seeking, whether it be like aesthetically or some sort of physical goal or something like that, it needs to be like a long-term change as opposed to something that's a quick fix. And that's what you really specialize in. Yeah,
absolutely. I always tell every one of my patients, my clients, I call them patients because where I work, it's in a clinical environment. And so I always say that where the mind goes, the body will follow. And if you want to change your physical characteristics, you can't do that without changing the mental aspect first.
Yeah.
And if you can really focus on that, the rest of it will become so much easier.
Yeah. So you said that wellness means something different to you than it means to you think to other people. So what does wellness mean to you? Since you're a certified wellness coach, what does that word mean to you?
So where I work with a lot of medical professionals and doctors and stuff. Like, I'm the guy that will bring in donuts every once in a while. I'm the guy that eats pizza and just eats all the time. They're like, you're the worst wellness person. They're joking, but for me, wellness is balance. Recognizing, okay, what am I physically, mentally capable of right now? What am I willing to change physically, mentally? Where do I want to be? And how can I kind of connect all the dots and bring about that that nice little harmonious balance.
Right.
And so for me, it's much more important to live a fun, loving life, to be able to do what I want to do, to help others, to kind of just be more go with the flow than to be so extremely structured and I can only eat this, I can only do that. I did that for a while. I did the whole bro workout lifestyle.
I feel like everyone kind of did.
You go through that phase just because you think that's what you have to do.
It's more fast and more extreme.
Exactly.
And it's completely opposite from what you're used to.
Exactly. Does it give you results? Yes. Does it allow for a lot of other things to interject with it? No, not so much. And I realized that my happiness is much higher when I can kind of just find that balance. Like, for example, I'm out here in LA for about a week and a half, and normally, back home in DC, I'll be very structured. Hey, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday workout, Thursday rest day, Friday, blah blah blah.
Right.
But here, it's so much more go with the flow. It's like I'm with my family, my in-laws, and they don't really have the same goals or lifestyle as me to a certain extent. And so I've had to just let it go. And so for me, I just, I try to just, it all goes back to awareness for me. What have I been doing? What have I been eating? What's going on? When can I get in the work? And so I think for me, that's probably why I connect so well with a lot of my patients and clients, is because they're like, I don't want to give up my lifestyle. I don't want to give up, I like to travel. I like to go out to eat. I'm like, okay, you like to do this, you like to do that, but you still want to reach this, weight loss goal, this composition goal, this PR goal, whatever it may be. How can I help you see different ways to still do that? But
realistically
speaking, absolutely. Right. Do a little bit less of this, a little bit more than that. A lot of times it's just as simple as like, I've been texting one of my clients today, my personal clients. For her, it's just a matter of just connecting and doing something with her husband. She has a weight loss goal. Her husband doesn't, but she feels like when she tries to work out, she takes away kind of family time. I'm like, okay, so this week, instead of you doing these workouts, your goal is to just get your husband go on walks with you. And so for her,
great.
Yeah, she knows, hey, if I can get him more on board, I'm going to be able to accomplish what I want to accomplish and not have to sacrifice giving up family time.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's, for me, it's all about balance. I'm the guy that will bring in donuts to the office, like I said, but it's because I know on that day I'm going to go squat like my life depended on it.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, what am I eating today? What am I doing later? What have I done? I always just like to be aware of what I've done, what I haven't done, and what I still would like to accomplish.
Yeah. I feel like that's a really solid message too. I feel like with fitness, people start off thinking that they have to go completely extreme in one direction, and it's all or nothing. It's an all or nothing mindset. And at the end of the day, you need something that's going to be sustainable for long term, as opposed to something that's going to make you happy in the short term, and then you kind of go back to your regular lifestyle and you don't really know how to balance everything. So I think that's a really great message.
Yeah, it's the black and white where people get so confused. This may sound weird, but I like to kind of live in the gray. And so I like
not a weird thing. I think a lot of people are either black or white, but the gray area isn't a bad place to kind of stay and hang out.
I have, I don't know if I have dead set goals. I have very specific guidelines.
Specific guidelines for life, yeah.
So, I mean, I know, generally...
Physique goals, probably like goals in the gym. You don't have super specific ones. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I want to...
For yourself.
For long term, I just want to be happy, healthy, and stay mobile. I want to just always be able to, pick something up if I need to, if my life depended on it, or just strain my back getting some groceries out of the car when I'm 50 years old. So, I have the education and the training and this, the science background to know the specifics of the why and the how, but I also just don't want to give up living a life where I'm cutting a lot of things out.
Yeah.
Because I think that turns you into a little bit more of a selfish person.
It does.
Where you only focus on yourself. And yes, you may achieve great things by yourself, focusing on improving yourself in that particular way. But I think it just limits you in a lot of other ways that you won't get the same enjoyment out of life if you just have those blinders on, which I see a lot of people do, the bro life, the meal prep. Which I'm not trying to knock anybody who does that. I think if hey, like you, for example, you're competing, so you're on a little bit more structure. So I think having those goals are very important to a lot of people. But, I mean, you and I went out to donuts the other day. That didn't really stop you. So just fine-tuning things that you need to do more of, things you need to do less of, and being aware of, hey, this is the lifestyle I want, but this is kind of my long-term goal. This is what I want to accomplish. How can I blend the two in the most efficient and compliant? There we go. That's a word. Yeah,
that's a word.
Compliant manner.
Yeah. I think people might sometimes not realize what their goals actually are. They might see other people doing things and they think that's what they have to do. Yeah. Kind of go to those more selfish extremes. But if you really sit down and think about what you want, not if social media didn't exist, if other people and you didn't compare yourself and all that didn't exist, a lot of people just want a higher quality of life and a better lifestyle, not necessarily those selfish extreme goals. So that's something that's really important to like note, and for maybe other people might not be able to understand. So this is good topics to bring up.
Everybody goes through the phases. So like I said, we all go through, you know, the bro phase. You all go through like the gym life, you know. And maybe it's just a different season of life that I'm in now, but I feel like I've kind of always had the same mentality. Maybe a little bit more extreme at times, but yeah, it's all about just lining up your lifestyle to what your end goal wants to be.
Yeah, for sure. So since you started your YouTube channel after Max, is it annoying or difficult to meet Max's brother? is that an annoyance to you, or is it just kind of like a funny thing?
Even before I started my own, I've always kind of gotten the like, hey, you're Max Chewning's brother.
Yeah, because he had one before you did.
Exactly, yeah. So he was doing his thing for about, I guess, 2 years before I ever started mine. And it doesn't really faze me at all. I mean, I think it's great. I love and support my brother in every way, shape, and form. And he has definitely found his groove. And so for me, it's just kind of like, yeah, okay, I'm Max Chewing's brother. It's fine, whatever. I think a lot of people would maybe misconstrue that. Sometimes I'll joke around with people. I'm like, no, he's my brother. But, but it's, you know, usually people already know. You know, it's great because if they're recognizing me, it means they're recognizing him and the big picture. Exactly. Yeah. So if they recognize anybody, it means they're probably connecting in some way, shape, or form. And that's my ultimate goal, and that's his ultimate goal. So
and that helps more people know about Ever Forward and the whole movement. And cool. What kind of dog do you have? You have a dog. What kind of dog is it?
Ooh,
I wanted to ask you that.
She's a little hybrid. So May adopted her. I think they told us she was like Nella is her name.
Love that name.
Nella.
Like
Everyone thinks she's Nala, and they're like, "Oh, you copied Christian Guzman, cool." But it's actually Nella, Nella. They had her named when we got her. I think it's like a short abbreviation for Nutella, because she's like this chocolatey brown color. She's like this 10, 12-pound little shit dog. I call him.
You call her a shit dog?
A little shit. That's what I refer to like every little... My whole life I've grown up with big dogs. I've had shepherds and labs and nothing really less than about 70, 75 pounds. So she's like this 12 little pound thing.
So May had her first.
She had her, yeah.
Okay.
And then, you know, now I'm like the stepdad or whatever. But yeah, she's I think they said like a Manchester Terrier mix.
Okay.
I don't know, a little bit of Terrier. Sometimes I think she has a little bit of Chihuahua in her. But she's a sweetheart. She's really great. Yeah.
So you like her now?
Yeah, she's okay.
So where do you live? Do you plan to stay there? Do you like it there?
So I live currently in Washington, D.C.
Okay,
and
the city.
I'm not one of those people that say, I live in D.C., but you really live in like Alexandria or Northern Virginia or something. Max and I moved up to Arlington, Virginia in summer of 2015.
Not too long ago.
Yeah, about a little less than a year and a half ago. May and I had always wanted to kind of migrate up that way. I have a lot of friends who got out of the military and work for the government now. I was always back and forth visiting them. She's originally from the Northern Virginia area, and a lot of her friends and stuff kind of migrated that way too. So she wanted to go there. I wanted to go there. My brother was looking for a change as well, so him and I moved up. And the first year I was up there, we lived together. May lived like 3 blocks down the street in another apartment. So we all, in a sense, moved up together.
Gotcha.
And then about 3 months ago, May and I moved into D.C. Now, we love D.C. want to stay there for maybe at least another year or two, but we're always open to new adventures. Her and I love to travel and just go other places. So who knows? We know that California is kind of our end game, but kind of just depends on...
Welcome.
Where
ahead
the
of time.
Texas. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be lying if I say I wasn't already looking at places out here.
Scoping out each area that you've been
this
in.
could be nice, yeah.
Hey, what is your favorite item of clothing that you own right now?
Ooh, right now?
You're a big fan of trench coats, I assume.
I am. So, all right, real quick story. I know this is rapid fire. One of my new favorite brands, well, it's new to me, is his menswear, actually women's wear too. It's called Billy Reed. And he has a store in Georgetown where we go a lot for shopping in D.C. It's known for their stores and shopping. And I found this trench coat. I saw it in the window, went in, looked at it, fell in love with it. I've always loved like the white trench coat on guys. And Fancy Chase, one of my fancy jackets. It was like $800 or something. I was like, I love it, but not for $800.
Right.
So fast forward, I think like 4 or 6 months later, this is one of my trade secrets. You get on email lists to all these companies that you like, and they'll have like these like secret insider sales, whatever. They sent me a promo code for 30% off any sale item, and I checked it. That jacket was on sale. From like 800 down to I think like 400 or 300 something. I think it was like 300. Then I got 30% off that. I got it for like 192, 197 off of originally like
bargain
$800.
shopper.
Exactly. So my new favorite item.
Dream jacket.
It is. It was great.
It's
I love it.
Story.
I love it. So my current favorite article
I can imagine
of clothing
someone
is my
asking
trench
you
coat.
about where you got it, and then you just tell them.
I'm like, have a seat. We're going to be here a while. Let me tell you the whole story.
what keeps you motivated and keeps you going right now? What's like, is there one thing? Is there a couple things? What keeps you motivated?
Like in life in general? Or?
Yeah, like to continue on doing what you're doing and to like continue to progress forward. Because a lot of people just stay stagnant and comfortable, and you're progressing forward and doing a lot of things. So what keeps you motivated?
That's a good question. Honestly,
Stumped you.
I'm going to have to give her credit. I'm going to have to give credit to May here. I became very complacent, sedentary. Like I was very happy with my life and I was comfortable. I was actually working. It was like a glorified part-time position for like a corporate health and wellness company. And I was doing okay and at the time in Richmond, Virginia. And I was just kind of just idling, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And May she's a very driven person, always like, I'm happy here, but hey, I'm looking for something. What's 6 months, 12 months, 5 years down the road? And so she kind of, I always had like a little bit of a spark, I guess, and she kind of just turned up the flame a little bit on me. So I give a lot of credit to her for kind of just always having that companionship and drive and of for herself, but also to kind of like push me as well. So kind of just in life in general, I give a lot of credit to her for that.
Cool.
But for kind of just health and wellness and well-being and just staying active, honestly, is a little bit of fear because, I mean, like I said, the issue with my dad, it's not hereditary or anything like that. It was just a fluke thing. But when that happened, and like I have quite a few people in my family that are type 1 diabetics, and so just the family history stuff, and then studying it for so long, you learn like, hey, a body at rest equals all these problems, arthritis and degenerative bone disorders and, all these chronic illnesses, exactly, that are so preventable just by, hey, watching what you eat, stay active, stay moving. I guess a little bit because my dad too, he was only 43 when he passed away. I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can now to be around for the people that I love and my friends and family, and to always just, be there for others basically. And I want to do that for as long as I can. And I just know that the more, hey, if I can hit the gym, go for a walk, do whatever I can to just make sure I'm treating my body right, to eventually treat others right. That's kind of where I get it.
Yeah, that's like a nice thing to hear from another like healthcare professional, just because that's where a lot of motivation to continue on, like just being active and exercising comes from me. Just seeing people with chronic illnesses in the hospital, and so many things are preventable just by simply being active and living like a healthier lifestyle. So
so many people, if people knew the illnesses and diseases that were so preventable, and I mean, even once you get them, are treatable and then reversible to a certain extent, by like, hey, put down the cheeseburger, maybe eat a salad or take a walk or something. It just blows my mind.
Replace the soda with some water.
Exactly.
Like small things.
Small things add up in the long run. Absolutely, yeah. So a little bit of fear of science.
Fear of science. No, I like that.
I believe in science. That's another movie quote. You don't get it.
I don't get it. I'm laughing anyway, though. All right, last big question. Okay. What do you think is the most important thing, success or significance?
Ooh.
That's not a good question.
That's a good one.
Came up with that myself.
Well, to me, I think success means different things for different people. And so I guess immediately most people would think success as X amount of numbers in your bank account or cars or house or whatever. Thing. Usually, yeah. I mean, to me, success is, am I happy? Am I full? Are people around me doing okay? For me, they kind of go hand in hand a little bit. But if I had to choose, I would say significance. I'm all about living, I guess, more a significant life. Does what I'm doing have worth, not just for me, but for others, versus does what I'm doing give me X amount of results? It's kind of hard to talk about this without sounding selfish, I guess, or
it's
even,
okay to
even
sound
arrogant
selfish,
to a certain extent. Yeah, but it's just doing things for others is what makes them happy the most. But at the same time, like, it's almost selfish in the sense because it makes you happy. So you're kind of pursuing your own passions. But I mean, in a sense, I would say probably significance, because I know if what I'm doing today has worth, it's usually not just for me. Someone else can find meaning behind it as well. And that's, the gift that keeps on giving, so to speak. So
that's going to go ahead and wrap up this podcast, 55 minutes long.
Wow.
Not too shabby.
I told you I could talk.
Yeah, we can talk.
It's always good being in good company.
Yeah, of course. It's been really fun hanging out with you, getting to know you more, and talking about your story, you talking about mine. Where can we find you, Chase?
So, good question.
Social medias.
Yeah, Everford Radio will be live January 22nd. Right now, I'm just going to be on iTunes. I will be looking at other platforms probably after that. But right now, on Instagram, it's Chewning the Elder. Twitter's just at Chase Chewning. I don't have a Facebook. And Snapchat is Elder Chewning. That one gets a little wild sometimes.
Snapchat's pretty funny. It's something he posted on Snapchat yesterday. I found it funny. There was you were eating sushi and you had the walrus.
Oh yeah. I put up the chopsticks in my mouth. It was like a walrus, but I titled it Vampire Boners.
Yeah, that was I laughed. Really I laughed at that way.
Really long vampire teeth. I mean, I'm stupid. I'm so stupid.
No, it's funny. Anyways, well, thank you for telling us your story. Yeah. Hugely inspirational. Thank you for your service as well.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And I appreciate being on here. And I'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Goodbye, world.